Welcome to Delusional Losers, your favorite losers. I'm Anonymous. I'm here with fan Alex Smith.
Hello.
What's up, guys? We're just here to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what we thought. And we missed episode 7. Missed that review. Alex, how you felt about the show so far?
Yeah, I mean, particularly this episode, it feels like it's really upping the production value. Because, if you go back and compare it against maybe the first one, there was so little going on in the pilot. There was absolutely no dimensions to it. But now we're getting some cooler, edgier stuff, and it's trying to interplay with the Marvel universe. Still a bit weak. I still feel nothing for Ward's character, as much as they try. But I guess I don't know. Maybe.
How did you feel about it before, though? What was your impression before, this episode? What's your overall impression of the show?
I don't know. I haven't had a big problem with it. I'm not gonna lie. I'll tune in and I'll be entertained by it. That's the case with most shows for me, unless they're really bad. But I'd say up to maybe episode 3 or 4, it wasn't really I wasn't getting masses of enjoyment out of it. It felt like something that I was just sort of watching, colors in front of me. And then progressively 4, 5, 6, 7, they started to get a little bit more entertaining. At least they had stuff that I had to think about for a minute.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's how I felt. I mean, for me, this felt like fan fiction, and that's how the entire series felt to me. It's
yeah.
fans, this kind of thing, because fan fiction does that thing where it's we're gonna put in what you want. I'm gonna put in masturbatory references to stuff I like and what I want to see. And that's what it feels like. It's oh yeah, we got Iron Man 3 references. I know you love that. We got Coulson, he's back. And I've read good fan fiction.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I've never read good fan fiction. Most is horrible. But good fan fiction out there. This was that. And I'm pleasantly surprised to say that this episode and last episode, the show has really picked up in a big way. Before, people were saying, "Oh, every episode's getting better." It's it would get better. It either get better in one area and get worse in the other.
Yeah.
Or it would only get better a little bit, kind of better. And this is where I felt okay, this is where they're taking steps to making it a good show. Because I've been watching a lot of Fringe and a lot of Firefly, and it's not doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. any favors. You know what I'm saying? People ask, what do you want out the show? I'm like, Fringe or Firefly, something like that. A cool, fun little show.
Well, it's like you say, you're talking about how it'll improve in some areas and just completely ignore other areas. This is the first episode where I felt like it was both trying to give you a character story, like the last episode did, where it was Ward and Fitz, at the same time as trying to give you the kind of sci-fi content-y stuff, so the Asgardian stuff. Because the problem with the Ward Fitz episode is you've got this character story, but at the same time you've got it's them doing a SEALs mission in Russia, disarming some kind of weapon of mass destruction. It didn't feel very Marvel-y, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What
generic
it should feel
MacGuffin number 5.
Yeah. But in this one, it felt like they'd sort of done steps. They introduced this Asgardian MacGuffin, but it also it literally gave people character development when they touched it. It
wasn't even a MacGuffin because it had a purpose. It was fully realized.
Yeah.
They just described it. It had a point.
Put it all together at the end. It was
this is what I want. Yeah, unlike the Chitauri helmet, for example, it's it's here, but it doesn't. It does a specific thing, but other than that, it's not just in the background. It's only there to serve as the bridge between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and this show. That's all it does. But here it had some personality. It was cool.
So maybe it was something to do with it was a little bit slow at first because they were going to up the hype, and then they got I don't know, the full season paid for, so they were okay, so we're going to slow it down a little bit and then build up as opposed to just instantly play our big cards. I don't know if maybe now they've got more time to work with, they're slowly kind of dripping it in, making it better, because they know they've got that kind of extra dimension of time to work with, as opposed
I'm kind of curious, real quick, I'm kind of curious about that. I'm okay, these episodes recently feel like they were filmed last week. They heard criticism, they said, all right, we got to see our stuff, and they filmed. like recently, because it seems like no, there's this line that was perfect. I was like, oh my god, yes, whoever wrote this, yes. He said Sky was like, yeah, I'm here if you wanna talk. He's like, oh, you wanna talk, Sky? That's all you do is talk and talk and talk. And I was like, yes, yes, that's all she does. Like, wow, that felt good. I was like, y'all are getting it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are understanding. That's the best thing to do with a character like that is deconstruct them, you know?
A show that's self-aware is always really important. I think like it's why Arrow's done so well in the second season. It's just taken on board everything that people criticised in the first season, and they're evolving the character. And I feel like self-awareness is the most important aspect to any television show, be it drama, like comedy, sci-fi, anything has to be self-aware. If it ignores its flaws, then it's just going to get worse.
My
But,
problem is that my problem is that, like, when you have something that's self-aware, I feel like that's an excuse to have bad writing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's like, he's self-aware, so we don't really have to try. Like I was saying, Daredevil is a hard
I
thing
see
to
what you
pull
mean,
off.
yeah.
Because just simply him acknowledging that he's a comic character, that's not interesting or funny automatically. You have to make it funny.
Yeah,
You know,
self-awareness, I guess, it does have to go beyond just a few
and
lines, doesn't it?
my problem with the show is that it's been too self-aware. It's like the
Right.
characters say corny lines and they like say it with no conviction. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm gonna say something kind of funny, but I'm gonna trail off like it's not funny, and it's not funny.
That was
Like,
my only criticism of this episode, I think, was
yes.
like how Coulson was just like, well, four, Asgard, four, I know four, I'm dealing with Asgardians, just like every second line. It's like, come on, we get it, you know? You're just doing this character lip service isn't going to make it any better. You can do it once or twice, maybe. I guess they're there cleaning up. They can mention it, but don't make it so like it feels like fans talking about the show, not actual members of the show. You know?
I'll do you one better. When the episode first started, where they were cleaning up from the Asgardians, I thought it was horrible. I heard 3 jokes back to back. It's like they have an opportunity for a joke in the punchline, and they're building up to it, and they'll either bail or it'll be whack. Like Simmons was like, this job is so easy, a monkey could do it. And then Ward was like, you are a little monkey. I was like, hold on. No.
Wait, what?
Stop. And then Fitz had a monologue where she talked about her parents, and that felt like that had a joke. It didn't fizzle. It fizzled out.
Yeah.
Cole had the worst line of the episode. Is like, I wish Asgardian would send a guy to clean up after themselves. Maybe he'll have a magic broom. I was like, yo, y'all are 0-3 for jokes right now. You know?
Yeah, but Coulson's kind of at least in this episode, Coulson got a lot more like they developed the whole like Tahiti thing, and like to see Coulson break a sweat in a nightmare, like actually because he's normally just so like steely eyed and he makes the kind of campy jokes, and that's like the only sort of dimensions of his character. But when you get like serious Coulson, like when Sky hacked the hub and like. And when he thought that she'd betrayed the team, and then in this episode when he's waking up from the Tahiti dream, it's like they're getting the different dimensions to him. At least they're making him a multifaceted character. And I always liked Coulson for his stupid little jokes. Like in the first episode when he's like standing in the shadows, it's like I thought that was darker than it was.
See, that made me roll my eyes. I don't know. I always felt like Coulson should be like the straight man, and that's what makes him funny is that he'll have a quip every now and then. Like his comedy is his lack of sense of humor. So you give him a sense of humor, it's like, well, I mean, I don't know. It's whack. I don't know. That line right there made me like irritated. But once let's go talk about a sequence. Once they got out of the Asgard and once they stopped referencing the Dark World, that's when it got better for me. Like it picked up immediately from there. Even though there was still, like you said, there was still the extra referencing. It's like, I don't know. People said to me, it barely ties in with Thor Dark World. I'm like, yo, it only ties into Thor Dark World. That's like the worst aspects is like you said, like shoehorning that reference dig down our throat. Like, okay, we did it. It's okay.
I felt like the only for the Dark World bits was the opening scene where they're in Greenwich, and then like the rest of it was just kind of like, it was an Asgardian storyline, but I don't know if it was really for the Dark World more.
I see what you're saying. I guess it's like, just one or the other, I guess. But, kind of the same. I consider it kind of the same because it's like a Thor, Asgardian themed type thing.
I see what you mean, yeah.
But and it talked about Thor extensively, so for me it is like kind of like a Thor Dark World follow up in that sense. But that's apples and oranges. Yeah, is that
Yeah,
the
I
phrase?
guess so. It's
Yeah,
where you draw the line, isn't it? I guess.
yeah. It's just it's cool, and I didn't mind those as much because what was going on was really interesting. They had, like I said, the mystery, the freak of the week thing was actually good, and I like how they
Yeah.
tied it in. Like they said, oh yeah, it's a group of anti-Norse god like cult, and so
Yeah.
it makes sense that they would pop up after Thor Dark World. I was like, this is good.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, that would make sense. Actually, you're right.
It's like, wow, this is actually like good writing. This is a way, like this is good. Yeah, this is making the pieces fit. You know what I'm saying?
That is awareness, isn't it? That is basically self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And the whole thing with Ward, his arc it's not the best I've seen. I've seen better, but
It felt really, yeah, I don't know, like my brother pushed some guys down a well when we were kids, and that's so scarring for me. It's like your brother was a douchebag. You don't need to. It doesn't need to be your deepest, like darkest recessed memory.
I don't know. That was kind of messed. I mean, like, okay, that was kind of fucked. Oh, I don't mean to cuss. That was
A
kind
little
of
bit.
up.
A little
Yeah, I was
bit.
like, no, that would, as a kid, nah, that would mess somebody up. I kind of see why he would be, at least for me personally, I see why he would be a little
It
scarred.
felt like some kind of like weird Batman Begins Aquaman origin, like
Yes.
pushed down a well in the water, like.
It did. It really did. But it was good. Like I keep saying,
Served a
it's
purpose,
good.
didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that's what I've been feeling. Like last episode, I'd say, oh, it's not good on its own. It's only good in relation to what we've seen for Agents. But this episode, I'd say, you know what, this is almost good. This is outside of good. This is just like, if they had gotten rid of that intro and had a little bit better writing, then it'd be great. I think the better the show is, the less funny it tries to be. Because like I said, when it tries to make jokes, it is horrible. But they had this argument where Ward gets I don't want to say possessed, but he gets affected by the little cane thing or
Yeah.
whatever. And he's talking to Sky and Simmons and Fitz, the most annoying characters on the show for some people, and he just calls them out. And it's like, this is not only is this great because it's character driven.
Mm.
It's addressing, like you said, it's addressing the flaws. It's being self-aware. It's also giving this guy who plays Ward an opportunity to actually act. Because I said that guy is a horrible actor before, and they put this out just because I
All
said
he had
that.
to do was
he
grip a big shaft, like work a big shaft, and he can act again.
Yeah, he can. That's his cue. But yeah, because he hasn't been giving anything. None of these characters outside the last few episodes have been giving. I've noticed it's doing that thing that a lot of TV shows do. It's like, okay, we're gonna have an episode feature or focus on one individual. So Sky had her episode. Simmons had her episode, or Fitz. I don't know. God damn.
Simmons is the girl. Fitz is the guy. Fitz is a Scottish name.
Win or Wan or Ming or whatever it is. She's gonna get an episode too.
Melinda May or whatever her name is.
That's her name, May. May. She's gonna get an episode too pretty soon. I'm pretty sure. And you know what? That's what they needed. They needed to develop these characters, and that's what people have been saying. Like these characters need time to develop. And you know what? These characters still aren't that interesting, but with good writing, they could be. Like I could easily see somebody coming in and making this a good show. I don't think it is.
Did May and Ward did they bang at the end?
That's it. Oh my god.
Or was it just like I thought maybe it's like, okay, so she's got a bottle of like port or something, and maybe they're just gonna like drink away these bad memories. Like they're both kind of having a moment where they accept that they've seen some terrible stuff. They just want to drink it away. Like they're not that strong, or they're banging. One of the two.
No, the way
she's like 50 years old. She is 50 years old. It was her birthday yesterday.
Hell, I don't give a look. I don't care. Age is just a number. Ooh, man. The things I would do to her.
She's like Lucy Liu as well. Just hasn't aged at all. She's like 46, 47.
Lucy Liu's 46. See, Asians. I'm not trying to be racist. This is like. I mean, anyway, for me, I think the Asians I've seen, they do not age. They age great. They're so graceful with their aging. I hope I can say that without offending people.
With that martial arts they do, keeps them in good shape, I guess.
Here you just tipped it over. You talked about
that.
That's very racist, yeah. But
sorry.
The way they filmed that scene where like she leads him in and she leaves it open and he hesitates. It's like, it was filmed as if they had sex.
What is this? I don't know. Is this like a character? What? This is a children's show, isn't it? I don't know.
That's so interesting. I love it. I was like, yes, this is, I was like, Agents, you got me, man. You're okay with me.
Can't wait for them to address that one in the next episode.
Yes. And I was, but we're skipping ahead a little bit.
Sorry.
No, it's fine because that was funny. But I thought the same thing. I'm like, yo, did they get it on? And what were we talking about?
Your regularly scheduled broadcasting.
What were we talking about?
We finished how Melinda May never ages because she's Asian point. And then, where did we go after that? I don't think we really went anywhere after that. I think we were about to.
Okay. What should we talk about? We should talk about the
If we did make anything out of it, so you can edit it out after.
I know. Yeah, I'm just going to be like, technical difficulties, and then I'm trying to figure out what the fuck were we talking about. We talked about the argument. I guess we can. Okay. Think of something that's noteworthy.
Perhaps the creature feature guy.
Oh, we didn't even talk about him. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry, some technical difficulties.
Very technical difficulties.
One thing I had a problem with and I didn't. Like, okay, the spoilers, the Asgardian.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him because it's. We were talking about this earlier. It's good that that guy looks nothing like an Asgardian, but at the same time, he was kind of off. Like he's a little.
He didn't feel like an Asgardian, did he?
Yeah, and that's not the point. But after that reveal, we should get some kind of sense of, okay, that makes sense. Like that's, and I do appreciate that twist because I genuinely did not see that coming, and it made sense. Like, okay, so that's what I'm saying. I'm mixed. Like, it
was a clever, hats off to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was a clever twist.
Exactly.
Turns out this guy who's a kind of a Norse mythology professor is actually an Asgardian himself. I didn't see that coming. That was clever. Yeah.
Yeah, and how did he find it? It's like, okay, that makes so much sense. But you bring up the point, why would he tell Coulson in the first? I would have misdirected him, but that's.
Well, he did talk. He was kind of taking, to use an English expression, taking the Mickey of the writing. Like when he was talking about the poems, he's like, this one doesn't even rhyme. When he's talking about like his French girlfriend's pastor wrote this down back in the 1500s, and they've got like the poems that lead to the different pieces of the stuff, and he's kind of ripping them apart.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah, okay.
I guess he's kind of throwing Coulson off by doing that. Like, this is just nonsense anyway. This is ludicrous.
Sure. Yeah, so the reveal was nice. I could have gone with the actor. That's kind of like the thing I don't like about the shows that's kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
That was kind of too cheesy. But like I said, he had a cool twist. It was all right. I won't hold that against this episode too much. But
it's like Lord of the Rings. They only hire attractive people to play the elves. I thought all Asgardians were supposed to be of like 6'2" minimum, and then like built like Henry Cavill. I thought that was the rule.
Somebody said that if you're ugly and you're in Thor's like universe, you're a villain. Automatically. Only pretty people in Asgard.
This guy was a villain, so it kind of works out.
Yeah,
he was like, he was misunderstood.
How would he get any girls ever? He had to be Professor. There was no way.
Well, I think the idea was that he's like aged a bit since those days, and he was like a kind of young stonemason warrior who landed on Earth.
That's a good point. This Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has its bases covered.
Yes, for once, it's got most of its bases covered.
Yeah, there's still some I like the staff. I like the idea. I pretty much like everything. Everything that is set except for that opening. I'm like, okay, this is if you can keep it.
It's not like I thought you were talking about like the intro. Do you mean like the opening scene?
Yeah, the opening scene where they were in London. I was like that was absolutely horrible. That felt
like forced and tied in, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like that's the weakest part. But and some of like I said, some of the references over the top. Some of the I've seen Thor. When Thor comes back. Thor is a good buddy of mine. Thor. You know, it's like, okay, chill out. It's okay. Bring it back. But the episode was so good, I'm not gonna complain about that. Like I said, that's a nitpick. I'm not gonna like sit up here and try to like take points away because of that. But
Yeah.
you know, that's the kind of thing like where I feel like the reason people have been complaining about the fan service is that you have to make a good show first, and then the fan service can come in. You know what I'm saying? So you can do both. You can service the fans and make a good show. And I feel like they've been doing like just making the fan service, and that's where like the complaints come in.
Joss Whedon's been servicing me too much. He's not focusing on the show.
What's he been doing? Like he hasn't
servicing the fans.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. They flew him in for Thor: Dark World. They need to fly him in for agents, but it's all good. But whoever, like I said, that argument with Ward. That has to be the highlight of anything I've seen on TV this whole week. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the highlight of the episode. I think that's the highlight of the series for me so far. Like, just telling off Sky. And that, what that did is that Sky, everybody got to act to that. Like, everybody got to emote. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was good. And he had a talk with May.
Good old fashioned chat with Melinda May.
Yeah, I would love to chat with her. Have a nice good chat.
An idea just came to me. Like, Joss Whedon had involvement in the first couple episodes. I know of this.
I think
he's been writing the Age of Ultron, or helping in the writing of the Age of Ultron script ever since. Maybe the show's getting better because he's not around. Maybe it's less campy. Like, who knows? Just an idea. Someone dispute me. Someone tell me what he's been up to. But I don't know. I don't know if he's been around or not. Maybe that's why it's getting better. Who knows?
I'll tell you what I think is going on. I think Joss Whedon is just the executive producer. I think he wrote the first episode, which is why that first episode had a lot of good dialogue.
Okay.
He's also working with his coworkers like Jed Whedon. And I was watching Dollhouse. If you watch another Joss Whedon show, there will be a lot of times where his name's not on it, and you'll hear like the same problems. Like the dialogue will be a little cheesy. Like some of the characters will be too quirky. It's like it feels like it feels like Joss Whedon wasn't on his A game. And what happens is he has his friends come in and write it, and that's what that is. That's why these episodes feel like the worst of a Joss Whedon TV show, without all the good stuff. Because
that makes sense actually, because they feel a little bit darker than I think he'd go. Like the storylines far and apart, more different to that kind of slightly campy superhero storyline from the pilot. But the dialogue's worse than the first episode was. I think the story's getting better, but the dialogue, as you say, is getting progressively worse.
Yeah, it's like the pilot had bad dialogue too. It had lots of bad dialogue, but it had a lot of good dialogue too.
This is an origin story.
Yeah. What she say? What Scott say? With great power comes a government agency or a bunch of guys.
Something like that, yeah.
I rolled my eyes to the back of my head. I was like, oh, God. But, that's in the past, so hopefully.
Somewhere in the country, is it Fox that owns Spider-Man?
No, it's Sony.
Sony. Some Sony exec had a heart attack and he didn't know why, and it's because she made that line.
Yeah, they weren't watching it, but yeah, and when that scene where Ward is punching the punching bag, it's like, that was a good scene, and then May just weaved it. She was like, "Yo, chill." He's like, he knows not to mess with May. He knows better.
They do mess with each other though.
Yeah. But
that was a much better joke in their summer. I need to work on that.
I know.
I didn't even try that time.
Yeah, we need to get some of those Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. writers in on our podcast.
Just writing the puns.
Puns. But yeah, that punching bag scene was cool. Yeah, the whole thing was above average, I'd say. I'm like, this is good. This is exciting. We haven't talked about. We talked about the whole thing where Ward might have had sex with May. I don't know.
What's that all about?
I would. I'm emotionally distressed.
I don't know. I feel like that scene was maybe just poorly executed tone more than anything. Like, if it's that ambiguous, then it's not been directed well. I think they left it way too ambiguous.
No, I mean, but if they meant to show that they had sex and they addressed it, then it was perfect. Because that's how you direct something like that. But if it was like them supposed to have a talk and drink, like no.
I thought maybe it was them both looking at each other and going, "We've seen some shit. We can't pretend that we're stronger than this. Let's have a drink."
Yeah.
Not like let's go bang. It's like I don't know.
But I like that both of them were. May wasn't really more vulnerable, but
Yeah.
Morg was. Morg was way more vulnerable than normal. And he was still. It's like okay, this doesn't feel out of character. It feels good. Like I said, that scene at the end was pretty powerful when he was stuck there in the bottom of the well. It wasn't too manipulative. It was like
Why do we
okay,
fall forward so we can learn to pick ourselves back up again?
because
They should have stolen that line. Why didn't they?
Yeah, I know. My problem with the whole. Remember when Fitz, the girl twin, when she felt with that
Simmons.
episode with her Simmons, where she was about to die. That felt too manipulative. Like that felt like
It's like,
just
yeah, screw your feelings.
you can cry if you want to. But here, I was like, it didn't make me want to cry, but I was
I
like,
don't
wow.
want to cry. Stop asking me to cry, Joss Whedon.
Yeah, stop trying. You're not. I don't care about these characters. But
I'm
now,
really liking. I think this episode addressed it just a teeny bit. Like it felt like it was going somewhere, then it didn't. When Ward got really angry, like the kind of the Ward Fitz relationship, where Fitz feels kind of like emasculated by Ward because he's like the big manly man. He saved his girlfriend, and he doesn't feel like the man that Ward is. And then Fitz is like, "What are you? You're nothing. You're worthless," or whatever it is he says to him. And I feel like that kind of went somewhere, but then it didn't. But it's an interesting dynamic they've got between the two characters now.
I'm curious if this was filmed in sequence because
Right.
I'm wondering like what order episodes. Maybe they scrapped some episodes. I don't know because at the end of the 5th episode with the Scorcher, Sky had these handcuffs, and I had gotten the impression that okay, those are going to stay on until he like they build back her trust or something like that, and she would have to prove herself. But that went nowhere.
Yeah, she's still wearing that.
She is or she isn't.
I don't know, is she? I didn't even notice it in this one.
I thought it was like something where she couldn't get near computers. I don't know. It was kind of ill explained.
Yeah, that's what they said.
And then so you had that whole thing where the British guy talking to Ward, he's kind of like, yeah, he said he felt mad because he wanted to step up. So I'm like, that follow up with that, or is that a setup to that? Like what? I'm like,
I think they only fairly recently got the full season granted, so I think they're filming like I don't know, like 2-3 weeks before the episode goes out or something like that, or finishing editing at that time.
I don't know, because I don't think you can have a full. I don't think you can film something that quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
I don't. That's pretty quick. That's a quick turnaround time. Generally, by the time an episode airs, your finale might be filming, but generally you have a full episode. I don't know. It's a strange.
They've been working on thin ice though of trying to get the season, so maybe they had some material pre-prepared. Maybe these episodes were all pre-filmed, waiting to get the full season.
It doesn't feel like it though. That's the problem. It doesn't even feel. It feels like they specifically address criticism of the show. I'm about to look up now. I'm about to look up now to see if this episode, because I know ratings have been dropping. And
are they still dropping?
Let me see. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Almost
Is it not
half.
good?
I mean, 6 million is not bad, but to start from 12 million and end up with 6 or 7, that's a problem. That's a big problem. That's most shows experience like 10-20%. That's almost half, and it's still dropping. Oh no, actually, the Hub only got 6.67 million, and this one actually went up by 22 million. So that's usually a result of better episodes. I think that's. So I think as the show gets better, they'll bring back some viewers. You know what I'm saying? But you got to keep watching because you got this damn podcast. But other people are like done.
Yeah, first thing I do on a Thursday, get my lunch, watch the show. Just power through it.
I don't watch
it. Actually, I don't want to sound too cynical, because when I watched it on Thursday, I got some enjoyment out of it.
Did you hear our last podcast? We were super cynical. It's okay.
I was very, very friendly towards that episode.
Oh yeah, but it was.
As long as it keeps getting better, it's gonna get some better feedback. That's what I think.
We need to talk about what happened to He. Now, there's 2 things I don't like. Yeah. Okay, so what I didn't like was that they keep building towards this. My problem is that when you have a question that you want answered, and you tease it, 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 with all this build-up, you better have a good solution. You know what I'm saying? Well, like, you have to have a good payoff.
I saw an interview of Whedon, and they were saying, and Whedon was saying something about how he said it. He said it in a manner by which it sounds like this isn't decided. Like this hasn't been written down on paper yet. He said we just want to get. We're trying to get an answer that's both that you didn't see coming and is really satisfying for a fan. And the way he says it like that makes it sound like they've got no definitive answer where this is going.
Yeah,
Like every single turn seems to point towards this life model decoy answer. But even Whedon doesn't know, so I guess the jury's still out on what half of this even means. But you're right, it just feels like if they keep running that out any longer, it's gonna, no matter what they do, it's gonna feel like an anticlimax, you know?
yeah, that's the problem with the show's been real anticlimactic, and you know,
Mm.
I'm thinking like, you know, they haven't really been, they haven't. That's my problem is that they're not really building towards it. They're just asking questions about it. They're not actually like,
Yeah,
they're not hinting at what it could be. I mean, other than the life model decoy, but that was obvious. I mean, you know, it's hard to explain. It's like that this tonight episode. Okay, for example, tonight's episode didn't give us any clues about what happened to Coulson. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
Last time's episode, didn't really give any clues about what happened to Coulson. You know, so it's like,
I think it might be like a kind of ephemeral magical plane sort of thing because like, did you see that interview with Anthony Hopkins at Before the Dark World thing?
no.
And they're talking about what happened to his character at the end of the movie, and he kind of laughs and says maybe he's dead, maybe he's gone to Tahiti, and it's like not there's no way that's a coincidence. There's got to be like I like to think anyway. There's some kind of like Marvel correlation about this Tahiti place, and I've got this idea that maybe it's like this ephemeral kind of magical plane that can only be kind of accessed by people like Scarlet Witch or Doctor Strange, and that's how I don't know, like she maybe like magics him back from there, but he's like in a completely new body, so everything feels new and upgraded, and it's like who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? It's up in the air. It's just an idea. You know?
I mean, they've been hinting that. Yeah, you're right. They've been hinting at the life model decoy. I mean, that sounds like a good explanation. We got to, but
Somebody
yeah,
was saying that this magical girlfriend of his that no one knows about, that he mentioned like once or twice throughout the whole thing, could be Scarlet Witch, but the casting thing, she's way too
oh
young to
hell
be
no, hell no.
Colson's
Don't think
girlfriend.
that I will stop. No, don't do
I'll
that.
just vomit in the back of my
Keep
mouth.
this show separate as possible. That's what's going. And I'm
Colson
not
should be
saying
the
that.
only thing that crosses over from that show.
Colson, yeah, and I'm not trying to be like, I'm not saying because lack quality. I'm
But
saying
to
this
be honest,
is just so different from the show. And if you,
yeah.
anytime you bring in something from television, it's going to be a lack of quality. And that's just how it is. You know, that's just what it is. If they brought in Arrow into like Man of Steel, you know, just by the nature of it, it wouldn't fit, you know? So like, just don't introduce something on TV to introduce to the film world, you know?
To be honest with you, had Coulson not appeared in the films before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I wouldn't want him to appear in them after. That's what, like, the show's done to his character. It's made him way too TV. Like,
Yeah.
if he didn't already have that pre-established background in the movies, I wouldn't want him to appear in them. But he's the only thing that I'd really like to carry across into the movies, because he's got a presence now. He's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, he was. And, you know, I didn't really care for him until the Avengers. And everybody was like, oh my God, Coulson. I'm like, that one guy, sure, I don't care. But then he died.
I like the Iron Man jokes when he's talking to Pepper, and she calls him Phil, and he says, "You guys are on first name terms." That kind of stuff was always funny. Like the Tony Stark Coulson interplay was always quite funny.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Where he was like, excuse me, his first name is Agent. Because I was just thinking about that. I was like, I always called him Agent Coulson. I never called him Phil.
Yeah.
So that was a good line. Well, we can't start talking about Avengers because people get mad.
No.
Stop comparing it to Avengers. Avengers is something different. You guys hate the show because you don't like Avengers, you know, whatever. But
Avengers.
I love Avengers, and I like this show. You know, I was watching Fringe, and, you know, I'm going to compare it to Fringe because it's kind of the same thing, or a similar premise. Like, Fringe had this mythology. It had worked out throughout the entire season. And this mythology was so interesting. I think that's what they need. It was like, I don't know if you ever seen Fringe, but it's like just this.
I watched the first few episodes when it was first coming out.
You need to see the whole thing because it's this really cool, like, dynamic that changes everything you know about the universe. Okay. And it's like, that's what it needs. It needs something like a big thing that'll be like.
It's so dynamic, doesn't it?
Yeah, because that's the problem. It feels like this show could be anything. It's like, doesn't feel like it has a voice just yet. And you know what? To be fair, that's where I'll say, okay, it's new, because Friends need a whole season, like, to get there.
Yeah.
So I'll give it credit on that level, but that's
I
why I
don't
like.
I don't want to compare it to Arrow. I'm gonna compare it to Arrow, but because everyone always compares it to Arrow, saying like
Yeah, that's
Arrow
true.
is like Marvel, like DC's answer to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. rather is like
That's
Marvel's
so
answer
cool.
to
Well,
Arrow, but they're very
there
different shows. They use they're very different teams. But the thing is, like the Arrow storyline always has overarching stories, like season-long stories that have. I think they now refer to them as the Undertakings because that was the name of the first like major overarching storyline was the Undertaking. So they'll call it they refer to things in season 2 as like the Undertaking of this season, and that's what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have is an Undertaking. It doesn't have like they'll mention the Coulson thing, but that's not an overarching storyline. That's like a
no,
little side thing. That's like a side note. This thing needs something like a big ongoing crisis that gives it that kind of dynamic that makes it work. It just does. It's kind of free flowing. It's just bouncing off of stuff right now and not really going anywhere. And I
and
think that would really be a useful push is if they had that.
yeah, that's what they need. That's something. We'll see if they do that. That's what they need to do. Because I'll bring back Dollhouse. Dollhouse is basically like the freak of the week thing too. And
Yeah.
then once it's got its footing, it took off. But it's the same thing. It didn't take 8 episodes,
Mm.
but I think what Agent Shield needs is a good villain because
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Dollhouse had a great villain. If you can guess, I'll tell you later. But just a great performance by a Josh Whedon alumni person, and
Okay.
it really tied everything together because once you have a villain, you have a story automatically.
Who
You know what I'm
who
saying?
do you
Like
think
that.
would be a who do you think would be a good overarching villain for the agents? If you could pick a kind of sort of B C list Marvel bad guy to run
Honestly,
amok.
I say Mandarin if I had to say it because that's a
Okay.
character. That's a character. If he wasn't in the movie, because you're right, we see a D list that's Marvel that it owns. I'm not that familiar with the Marvel comic universe, and
Right.
all the characters I am familiar with are big. So when people are talking about Graviton, I'm like, who? Like who
Yeah,
is that?
same. I didn't know who he was until I did a bit of research. But actually, saying that, I feel like having had that origin story, they're missing a trick by not having Graviton as a an overarching bad guy. I feel like he'd be a good one
He
because
wasn't
now
that
they've got
interesting
because
though.
they'd have to constantly deal with like the Batman Joker thing. They'd have to deal with how Coulson created him. He made this mess, and Graviton can just wreck things at the flick of a wrist. You know.
Let me just say, I don't think that actor is good. I don't think that character is very good. I don't think they should start
See,
something.
I think the character's interesting. From what I've read about him, he's an interesting
I'm talking
character,
about the
but I
show
think
though. Like I'm
they
saying,
could have picked a better actor
we're,
to portray him.
well, we're talking about like what's been shown to us on
Mm.
screen, and I don't think that's interesting. Like,
Well,
I'm
I
sure
guess
every character is interesting when you read about them,
I guess
but
it's the same problem like we're talking about the Amazing Spider-Man. Now that they've got the Graviton origin out the way, they can make him an interesting character. They can show like all of this hate that's built up towards Coulson and all this power he's been given, and they can make him into this like multi kind of dimensional. I don't mean multi-dimensional like he can travel between dimensions. I mean like multifaceted, multi-emotional kind of character, like with all these layers. They can do that. They can evolve him into that over the course of a season or whatever.
I
But
mean,
I guess now the origin's out of the way. Admittedly, there wasn't much trim in that origin. There was nothing really defining.
yeah. Let me say, I think the problem with Agents of Shield is that they're getting D-list actors that you've never heard of. And
Yeah.
not to say that you need big actors for a TV show, but if you watch something, like I said, like Dollhouse had a big actor, well, a big TV actor for its villain, and in having a big actor, the actor's already pretty iconic. But this
Mm.
guy they got for Graviton, it's like I could see that guy walking down the street, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
like okay, so Fringe got the guy from Sherlock Holmes 2.
Yeah.
Jared Harris. He got him, and he looks interesting as a person. You know what I'm saying? You have to
Mm.
get people who look like people that aren't just picked up off the street, and until they
Yeah.
do that, they might have problems. And you know what I'm saying? I could think of plenty of people who would be good on the show. They have to find those people. You can't go for I don't know what's going on. Like what?
In
The
season 2 of
captain.
Arrow, one of the bad guys is the Dollmaker, who is like a B C list DC villain. I think the only notable thing about his character is in New 52, he cuts Joker's face off and Joker wears it like a mask. But like, Dollmaker's not a big character, but they chose a fairly established actor with like a striking sort of appearance and a fantastic acting ability, and made this really creepy, like Jigsaw-like character that was probably, I'd say, the best villain that Arrow's had so far. And so it is possible, like you say, if you've got the right actor, if you've got someone who's pre-established and like, I don't know, maybe the guy who played Graviton was pre-established. I just don't know much of his work. But
He didn't seem like he didn't have any presence. Somebody with presence.
yeah, exactly. This guy had so much presence. The guy in Arrow, you felt really creeped out by him. He was a proper villain, but there was just, I don't know, I didn't feel anything really towards Graviton's character in that episode, you know?
Yeah, I didn't either. That whole character, I'm like, oh, he's somebody important, but I don't from the comics. But
Yeah.
that character isn't that interesting. There are plenty of people they could get, and they're not. You know, maybe people aren't interested in getting. You're thinking of the Josh Whedon show. It attracts big names, you know, like somebody, anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, would maybe want to get in. Maybe Ray Liotta would be a good choice. You think so?
Yeah, I can kind of see what you mean there, actually. Yeah, I think so.
Somebody who has some presence on screen that's not, you know, not a lister, but, you know, somebody big, you know. Not to say that that's the reason I haven't liked the show so far, but in order for it to work better, that's what I think would work better.
Yeah.
For the yeah, so that's just suggestions. That's not complaining. That's just suggestions for what could do better. So, I guess we talked about Tahiri. I guess I didn't like how he was like, Tahiri's almost too good to be true. You know, whatever. You had to fit one in, okay.
Yeah.
And then he walked up in a cold sweat. I didn't get that, but, you know, overall, I'm pretty positive. This is probably one, like I said, it features one of my favorite scenes I've seen on TV right now, and I've seen American Horror Story and Sons of Anarchy, so that's saying a lot, you know, those two great shows. So, you know, I'm pretty positive.
Yeah, no, so am I. I think this is going in a much better direction now. At least it's addressing characters and story at the same time. It feels like it's got that level of self-awareness at least. So, you know, fingers crossed. It could be getting better.
Yeah. So, so guys, let us know what guests you would like to see on the show or what else you'd like, and let us know what you thought about the episode. I'm Anonymous. This is Alex. We are signing off.